All right, imagine going to Coachella. And what do you go to Coachella for? You go to look at the chicks barely dressed, right? Or if you're a woman, you probably look at some really good-looking dudes who are barely dressed. So you go to Coachella, and you go for, I guess, certain substances that'll put you in a happy mood. And you go to see some great stars, right? I mean, over the years, you've got Beyonce at Coachella, Prince, Lady Gaga, Green Day, Post Malone has played Coachella. Blink 182 has played Coachella, right? I mean, Billie Eilish has played Coachella. So cool, right? Imagine going to Coachella and the lights start flashing and the music starts playing, and there, center stage, is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders played Coachella. And I want you to enjoy every little bit of it. Our great video team over at Town Hall Media put together this guy. You should check out and follow Town Hall Media on X and see some of the great stories they've been putting together with these threads. Here's Coachella with Bernie Sanders, and it's a great reflection of where things are right now in the Democrat Party. First of all, Coachella, $600 general admission ticket. VIP tickets are $1,200. $150 to $10,000 for your camping options. $20 to $30 per meal. $15 for one beer. And then, of course, you get one decrepit politician who went for free to preach his radical politics. I mean, it's a good point. It's hard to argue. And look at the imagery there of Bernie. They brought their own camera crew. They had their drone. They had the whole shebang. What did he have to say? Well, Joe Concha actually made a good point about this. Take a look at Joe.
Joe Concha has some strong feelings about this.
Bernie Sanders goes there as well, I guess, to appeal to the working man and woman, the same senator who owns 3 homes and is worth millions of dollars. So the hypocrisy is so pure. That's Bernie's audience. Yeah. And then we heard his partner in crime, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, just last week, flying to a Fight the Oligarchy rally. Flew first class. This is something where the Democratic Party really has some problems right now because Donald Trump has co-opted the very voters that used to reliably vote Democrat.
That's right. I love Joe. He's a good guy. And it's all great points. Okay, so what about Coachella by the credit card? What? All right, here, take a look.
Well, look, a new opinion piece has this headline. Of all the things to go into debt for, these Americans choose the dumbest possible thing. Here's part of it. How desperate and stupid do you have to be if you are willing to go into debt for a concert? Our culture is so rotten that instead of looking for a way to get married, buy a home, start a real life, 20-somethings are willing to ruin their financial future over Lady Gaga. Look, we're talking about the fact, the reports now that people have taken out loans. They are seriously going into debt to go see the concert. And, Sanders is just one of the names added to the bill. And that audience is huge. I don't know if they, care that he's there. Well, look, a new opinion piece.
It's a good point. But think about that for a minute. People are going into debt. So this is Bernie Sanders. These are his people. And he's going there to rally support for his, it's the same socialist message he's had literally since the 90s. It's the same oligarchy. He's literally been saying this since 1996, I think, or earlier. And you're going into debt over this? And this is supposed to be, listen, if you want to trust your government's finances to a socialist, just look at how good that's worked out in all of those great, thriving communist countries around the planet. So I guess it makes sense that these are Bernie's people. But there's more.
See him, but he came to see them, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's his focus is on young, ideological, not really understanding what's going on in the world. There used to be an old saying, if you're not progressive or liberal when you're 20s, you don't have a heart. If you're not conservative and fiscally conservative when you're in your 40s, you don't have a brain, right? So, it's an old saying, but it just goes, they haven't lived life. So, yeah, these things sound wonderful. But how do we get in this predicament in the first place? We transferred from a nation of rugged individualism that became the #1 country in the world. And over a period of time, beginning with the Great Depression, we lost a lot of that. In the 60s and 70s is when the nail was put in the coffin. Because big government became bigger and they would solve every single problem, every nuance, every social slight. And they've been running on that. You can find videos of Bernie Sanders, the greatest hits, saying the same speech over and over again for at least 25 years. And it's a recruitment. It's not even about a plan to do anything. It's just a recruiting tool for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you can really rev up an audience about politics. I believe there are some alcoholic beverages, perhaps. Like, I don't know what the crowd's been on, but it's nighttime. They spent all that money, went into debt to get there. They're partying. Woohoo! And a politician shows up on stage. They probably clap for anybody just hoping he gets off. I don't even know if they know who he is at that point. They're having fun.
No, they're having fun. And again, they feel like, okay, this is they learn about fairness. That's the main thing they've been learning about, and then their minds, what he's saying sounds right. It sounds fair.
I hear you.
Then they learn history. Then they start writing bills. And then all of a sudden they start getting a check. And who is this FICO person getting a big piece of my action? Real life.
Yeah, in fact, that's where the whole fairness narrative falls apart, because you realize that you're paying for people to basically take your money, steal your money, and waste your money. By the way, if I could, Charles, and I like what they do over at Fox and all that jazz, but this whole idea, it's an old canard, and I understand it. If you're young and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart, but if you're old and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. Someone said Winston Churchill came up with that first. I'm not sure if that's the case. Kind of just push back on that a little bit, because I'm not a teenager. I've been in the working world for a long time. I'm a father of 4. I'm a working man. I'm of a certain age. I'm a Gen Xer. I think I've got a heart. I'm a conservative, and by definition, as an older gentleman, and I'm a conservative, that means I've got a brain, right? But I actually think I have a heart. In fact, when I look at the policies of the Republican Party right now and the conservative movement in America and what President Trump has been promoting, actually, it takes a lot of heart. I care deeply for innocent victims of crime in this country, so much so that I want them protected by putting criminals away for a very long time. And I want to send the message that anybody who's even thinking about committing a crime, especially a violent crime, we are going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, because we value the innocent person's life that you're about to harm. See, it takes heart to want to promote law and order. You have to have feelings and love for your fellow man to protect them in a lawful, civilized nation. When I see a homeless person on the street, I want that cleaned up. I want that situation taken care of. Why? Because I have a heart. I care about that person. If there's somebody who is in desperate straits and living on the street, they're living there for one of several reasons. If they're addicted to substances, I think they should get straight and they should fix themselves. And as a member of society, I'm okay participating in helping them along the way. Maybe they've got mental illness. Well, if you've got mental illness, you shouldn't be living on the streets. I would like to take care of that person. I think there should be private-public partnerships, faith-based partnerships. The very best, most effective shelters in our major inner cities are run by churches, where they help people with mental illness and with addictions get their lives back in order and get the help that they need. I'm in favor of that. I have a heart. The other reason why someone's living on the street is because they're a criminal, because they don't care about society, because they want to be there. Well, they should be taken care of too. But either way, it doesn't take a heart, it doesn't take empathy, it doesn't take love for your fellow man to walk past a person who is sleeping on the streets, living on the streets, urinating on the streets, defecating on the streets, fornicating on the streets. And yes, that's happening. Go to Los Angeles, you'll see it. It doesn't take heart and empathy to just walk by and say, hey, keep Austin weird. No. It takes heart to actually want our laws enforced. And every single city in America has a law against criminal vagrancy. I refuse to accept this narrative that as a conservative wanting to enforce the law, that I don't have a heart. I care about those people living on the street more than the liberals do, because I actually want them to do better for themselves. Now, I don't accept that anymore. I have a huge heart. I'm a loving, empathetic, compassionate person. I am a conservative. Everyone else who wants the chaos in our country, who doesn't want laws respected, who wants men to be able to compete against women in sports, who wants to fund children changing their bodies and mutilating their genitalia, that doesn't take heart. That doesn't take compassion. You're a monster. We got to change that phrase. If you're young and you're a liberal, you don't have a heart. And if you're old and you're liberal, you don't have a brain. There, fixed it for you.